Welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. This is the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. I'm delighted to announce joining me on the show today, Newcastle United legend Lee Clark. Lee, thanks for coming on.
No problem, JP. Thanks for having us.
Brilliant, Lee. Right, as always, we go right back to the start. Growing up in Newcastle, you were obviously a big Toon fan, but were you always the best player in your school?
You should ask other people that, I think. But I actually started playing for my under-11 school team when I was 6, and it was by accident, really. I was just messing about with my school pals in the yard, and the PE teacher, Mr. Horrocks, Jim Horrocks, who became a great friend of mine. He was a football teacher as well, and obviously seen us with the ball, and asked if I had my boots with us because they were short of 1 or 2 players for a school game that night after school. And I only lived a couple of minutes away from the school, and I said I didn't have my boots, but I could quickly get them. So he said to do that, and I got home, got my boots, and played well. Got a call up to the team, started on the substitutes bench, got a chance to play, and then, as to say, the rest history. I was then in the team every time they played as a 6-year-old in the under-11s.
You must have made some impression.
Yeah, I was tiny. I was tiny. The kit was so big. It was black and white as well. It was black and white stripes. But obviously the laundry wasn't so good, so the white was starting to turn a bit grey.
You went on to play for Newcastle Youths, and then you were part of Kevin Keegan's amazing 1993 team that had the likes of Rob Lee, Andy Cole, Scott Sellers, won the First Division, got promoted to the Premier League. That must have been stuff of dreams for a young local lad from Newcastle. Yeah,
I always say it. I lived the dream. It was unbelievable. When I went to watch my first game in 1980 at St James's as a supporter, as an 8-year-old, I didn't understand how you become a footballer for Newcastle United. I thought it was just a privilege, and there was never a chance for a lad like me. So when the opportunity came and I got my debut as a 17-year-old, it was an amazing feeling. Then to be part of an era where it's so fondly remembered, the Keegan era, the entertainers, was just so special. And some of the stories, when I first got into the team, I didn't drive, I didn't have a car, I hadn't passed my tests, so I still used to get the bus to the matches. The driver used to let us on free for the 50 pence bus fare, so but I was on the bus with the supporters. The only difference for me, as they were walking to the pub before the game, I was walking into the dressing room to be one of the players they were either cheering or criticising.
Brilliant. Newcastle went on then to finish 3rd in the first season they had in the Premier League, playing absolutely amazing football. Beardsley, Rule Fox on fire. Andy Cole scored 41 goals that season. Like, going into the Premier League, the dressing room must have been absolutely fearless. If you look at teams coming up now, a lot of them tend to sit back, with the exception of Leeds this year, who I think were a breath of fresh air, coming in and attacking. Newcastle went up to the Premier League and just took on everybody, and there was no fear. It must have been a brilliant team to play in.
It was, and that philosophy was down to the manager. He and the chairman, Sir John Hall, when they took over and they brought Kevin in. Kevin says he says what he feels, and people can take that the wrong way. But when he took over, he said he wanted to take the club into the Premier League, and then he wanted to challenge the big boys in the Premier League. And as you said, usually teams who get there, they play the safety card first, and they just try and stay in the league. But we took teams on. We had a difficult start. We lost our first 2 games in the Premier League, but we didn't lose confidence, and that was down to the manager. And as you said, we finished 3rd, and we continued to build, and we were there. We were just continuing to challenge to be the top dog. And we never ever thought. I think we finished 6th once under his management, and we were absolutely gutted as players. And the club was gutted because we'd set such high standards. So yeah, that was down to him. That was the way he wanted to do. We never changed our philosophy, home or away. We went to take teams on. We never worried about what they could do with the ball. It was what we were going to do and how we were going to hurt the opponent.
Fast forward to the following January, the next season, and I will never forget coming in for training for my under-16 team They were called Kyle Dove back in Ireland, and they also wore black and white. Came in after training, and one of the coaches was a man named Ollie Buckley. And he just said to me, you won't believe this. He said, Andy Cole's been sold to Manchester United, who were our biggest rivals. I thought he was joking first. And then a few of the other lads, someone put a teletext on, and because there was no internet back then, I have to say my heart absolutely sank. I remember Keegan was on the steps trying to explain the sale to the fans. What was it like getting that news for you lads in the squad?
Well, obviously, I was so close with Coley. We were very good friends from our England days, England youth. When he came into the club, I was his guide around Newcastle, and we were very close. And we used to take each other in, take turns, and it was his actual turn that morning to take me in. And he obviously never turned up. We lived just across the landing in the opposite apartments, so it was a strange one. But it was the secrecy that the deal was done, and obviously the players were shocked, very shocked. This was our talisman. This was the man. Every team who's successful needs a main goal scorer, and Coley was our man. As you said, he was breaking all kinds of records, but he went for a fantastic move himself personally that was going to get him major honours further down the line. But as Kevin always done, his recruitment was unbelievable. His signing of players was fantastic. He always had someone in mind, and whether he could do it straight away or whether it was going to take a few months till the next window, he done it. And obviously, Les Ferdinand was the target, and he brought Les in. And then following that, obviously, Alan Shearer. So we always had unbelievable confidence in the manager. We knew that he was always striving to improve the group. That's why we, as players, we had to be at our best every single day, because the challenge was always there for us to play, to train hard to get in the team. And he done that. And, so Coley went and had great success himself. But the club, we had unbelievable confidence.
Did Keegan come in and explain the decision to you lads in the dressing room, or was it just a case of, look, Andy's gone, we're moving on?
No, listen, us players, Kevin was the manager. We respected that. We knew that. Kevin didn't have to explain anything that he'd done. No manager did. There was no need. We were employed and paid to play football. The manager was employed to get the best team together and to make strong decisions. Any manager who's at the top and who is successful has to make huge decisions, strong decisions. And Kevin showed strong leadership, and he wasn't frightened of strong decisions, and he backed himself. And you'd be a silly man not to back yourself, because one of his unbelievable assets as a manager was his recruitment side. He very rarely got any wrong, and as a manager, if that's the case, you're doing unbelievable, because it's a difficult area to get right, the recruitment side, and Kevin was phenomenal in his recruitment side.
We had Rule Fox on the show a few months ago, and he said, he didn't want to go anywhere, but once he knew that Kevin Keegan was on the phone, he had to speak to him. And he said once he spoke to him, there was no going anywhere else but Newcastle. He certainly seemed to have that effect on players. Now, the next season was the season that I think would make any football fan fall in love with football. 95, 96, the entertainers. We were absolutely flying. Les Ferdinand and Ginola arrived. The season we're 12 points clear. I thought the first half of that season, I thought that was some of your best football in your career. I thought you were just more or less the complete kind of attacking midfielder. Asprilla came in from Parma, and a lot of people kind of blamed him, for us not winning the league. But we also signed David Batty. Now, this is my opinion. No disrespect to David Batty. He won the league at Blackburn. He did great things at Leeds. But I don't think we needed to sign David Batty. You were dropped in for a few games, and it didn't work out. What are your thoughts on that, Lee?
My thoughts are very similar, and I'm going to say that I've got to back myself, but we were 12 points clear. We were doing great. I'd gone into a new role. I was the starting point of our attacks. David became a great friend of mine when he was at the club. We got on really well. We had a great relationship, and he was an outstanding player. But he played the game in a different way to me. He played, with a bit of a slower tempo, and, didn't always look for the forward pass immediately where I did. When David arrived, I never started another game. And I certainly feel that, out there I think it was 9 games, where we didn't pick up enough points to stay ahead of Man United. If I stayed in the team, we would have. Who's to say we wouldn't have got those points? And the team was doing well. My last start for the team was the 3-3 draw at Main Road against Man City. Listen, David was quality. You've mentioned he won it at Blackburn. He was brilliant there. He was brilliant at Leeds. He was brilliant at Newcastle. As I said, different type of player to me. And we didn't, as I just said earlier, the manager was always challenging. I seen it as a challenge, but I never got the opportunity to, challenge that because David got brought in and got put in the team at my expense. So it was difficult. Tino was the same. Tino was a fantastic signing. We loved him to bits. And Maverick could do it something out of nothing, like on his debut with down at the Riverside when he made the winner for Steve Watson. That was typical Tino. So 2 great signings, improved the group no end. For me, it was something that, yes, bring David in, but to put the extra pressure on me, then I had to up my game even more. But, I felt a little bit harshly treated that I was just taking out the team and never give another start for the rest of the season.
Like you said there, you're very different players. And for me, obviously, this philosophy, this football Newcastle were playing was working. Winning games, blowing teams away. And like I always saw football in the sense that the best form of defence is attack. And if it's not broke, like my dad used to say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So, I look back on that and I think Tino was an addition. I think David Batty would have suited maybe a different team. He would have suited more Rafa Benitez or Steve Bruce's era, not Kevin Keegan's football. So, absolutely good at that season. And, I thought, look, Shearer is going to come in. We're going to win it for the next 3 or 4. Didn't work out. But, you got to be proud of playing in that team, though, Lee, because that was just unbelievable to watch. And that would turn any fan, any neutral football fan in the world into a Newcastle fan.
I'm a massive fan of the football club. And, for me, it's about, the people who should be remembered the most are the people who bring success, the managers who bring success and players who bring trophies. So the 69 lads are so important to me. I don't think they get remembered fondly enough. I don't think they get talked about enough. The Fairs Cup winning team, Joe Harvey, fantastic manager, fantastic player. I had the pleasure to be at the club with him when he was the chief scout. So, he worked closely with the scouting team when I was a schoolboy to sign us. So I had the honour to be in and around him. These people, for me, don't get remembered enough, like they do at other clubs, the heroes and the legends of other clubs, of what they've done. We get talked about probably more, and we only finished second and we played exciting football. So that's a proud moment for me. Probably the next best group was probably Bobby Robson's lads. But the thing for us was we were finishing second or third on a regular basis, and it was during the time when the British clubs were banned from Europe for a little spell. So we didn't have the opportunity to really push for the Champions League. And the Champions League then was the Champions League. You only got in it if you were the champions.
Exactly.
You didn't get in it. So, it was, that it's fantastic to be remembered as part of that group. And I appreciate it all. But, I still think as a fan, we need to remember the 69 lads a bit more than we do.
Of course, yeah, the old Fairs Cup, which it's effectively now the Europa League, and there's been a couple of closer ones since then. I remember, I think it might have been Lisbon. In Lisbon, Kieran Dyer was playing under Bobby's team. We got to around the semi-final, quarter-final, and lost.
Yeah.
And then there was a run, maybe to the quarter-final with Pardew, but also those Champions League nights as well. Not just, you look at Asprilla against Barcelona, but the nights with Bellamy and Shearer against Feyenoord and Inter Milan, and that group with it.
Yeah, I was watching them games down, and I was in Fulham then, so I was watching them games in London and jumping around the room like a lunatic because that was one of the comebacks of all comebacks. How the team had started so poorly in the group stage and how they recovered. I think in the last 3 or 4 games to get those wins and the way they've done it was brilliant.
That was actually a record. The Newcastle were the first team in the Champions League to lose the first 3 games, but still to make it through to the next stage. Lee, what was Kevin Keegan like as a man? Also, we know you spoke about how brilliant he was as a coach.
He was a phenomenal manager. He took a lot of time and found out about your personal life. Certainly in my younger days, he was like a father figure to us. Didn't want us to get above myself. I mean, in fact, my first sponsored car was a bit of a sports car, and he made us take it back to the garage and get a more sensible car. And then with some of the bonus money we got to get to the Premier League, bought myself my first probably nice motor car and a BMW. And he said that was too early for us, so he made us take that back to the garage.
Brilliant.
You know, the birth of me oldest son, my first child, he celebrated with me brilliantly. Chet is unbelievable. He was just a great guy. You wanted to run through the proverbial brick wall for him. You loved playing for him. Training was an enjoyment. You loved training. You missed it when you had too long off. You missed when we had the end of the season to the beginning of the next season. You know, after a few weeks, you were desperate to get back because he created an environment where the lads loved being around each other. We had a great camaraderie. We had a great spirit. And he was the leader of all that. And so, yeah, he was a fantastic manager.
Something that Rule Fox touched on, that he said that Keegan would keep all the lads at Newcastle together. They go to the cinema, they go for a pint in odd time, they go for a meal. And he said when he went to Tottenham after that, it was just you trained and you played and you went home, and there was no camaraderie. There was no kind of, after club meetups. There was nothing like that at all. And he said he missed that from Newcastle. And it sounds like Keegan created all of that.
Yeah, Kevin was a big factor in the team spirit, the togetherness. We would regularly go up to Scotland for training camps and little golfing breaks where we'd be together, living with each other 24/7. He encouraged us to socialise together, and we did. We socialised as a group of lads. We socialised as in our couples with our wives and girlfriends, and he was all encouraging for that. And he wanted us to be close to each other. He wanted us to be prepared to fight for each other to win the game, and that's what we done. He created an atmosphere where we weren't frightened to fall out with each other, even though we're good friends, because we knew ultimately after those 2 hours of playing, we wanted to all be winners. And if we had to fall out with each other during the course of the game to get to that end goal, we'd do it. But then we just were pals again straight after. It was forgotten. We got to the win that was required, and that's what he pushed. He created that, and the characters and the players that he brought into the club, they all bought into that. We never had any players that didn't want to buy into it, and we didn't have any cliques of any sorts. The foreign lads came in, were brilliant. Ginola, Al-Merrikh, Osprey, all different class.
Mark Hottiger, yeah.
Mark Hottiger, yeah, different class. We had great laughs with all those lads, and brilliant guys, brilliant.
Yeah, I've spoke to a lot of footballers, Lee, and you don't often hear what you just said there, is that when the season ends, you're kind of itching to get back. That must have been an absolutely brilliant environment. Next season, moving on, how much of a lift did it give you playing in the same team as Alan Shearer?
Well, I'd known Alan. We'd gone back a long time, gone back since our early, I was 10, 11, he was 12, 13, a bit older than me. It was
before he went to Southampton.
Yeah, it was then Boys Club. We were there together. So I was a bit in the younger couple of years below Alan in the team, in the club. So we'd known each other, we knew about, we'd known each other from there. We'd grew up together. So, there was that close connection. And us Geordies, no matter where we go in our football career, have that close bond whenever we see each other in any way. But for us to be signing the best striker in the world at that time, when we just come off the back of the disappointment of the 12-point lead, I think, like you fans, we thought, right, this is the missing ingredient. This fella will just be the missing link and smash us to... We were excited. I was excited, thinking, this was the opportunity to start getting some silverware on a regular basis. And unfortunately, within 6 months, things had changed because Kevin had decided that his time was up. You try not to say it's affected you, but I think it did. I mean, Kenny came in, and Kenny had a brilliant CV from his time at Liverpool and Blackburn as a manager, but also as another icon as a footballer, an absolute legend, an unbelievable footballer. So we were all excited to work for him, but for whatever reason, it just it didn't have the same fit or the same feel about it.
Yeah, and then, Ginola and Ferdinand went to Tottenham, and I was good at them because he was kind of supplying the bullets then. Ginola, you'd Gillespie, and then obviously Rule Fox went as well to Tottenham, and it kind of, the likes of John Barnes and Ian Rush came in then, who are at the end of their careers, and I kind of felt like, that this was a step back. I like Dalglish, he was a good man, but that Kevin Keegan, like the fearlessness of the football, I would compare it. The only thing I could compare it recently was what Bielsa has done at Leeds. Just come in and just say,
but
go at them,
the problem you've got, and this is the myth, and this is what happens in football, because everyone resonates with and associates the entertainers with the Anfield 4-3 games. Everyone automatically says, oh, they were poor defensively, they were gung-ho, they used to just score goals and let so many in. We were far superior to what Leeds were in terms of a defensive team. We very rarely lost any games. I mean, I think in Kevin's 5 or 6 seasons at the club, we averaged 1 home loss per season. And so there was this myth that we couldn't defend, and that was just absolute rubbish. I think we had the second, or at worst, the third best defensive records in the leagues at the time. So, and Leeds do get compared to us, and rightly so, but, they finished mid-table. We were a far superior team to them in every aspect. We could attack and play the tempo like they can, but we also, we never, used to lose as many games as Leeds have lost. So, I think it's just this, something gets mentioned or something gets seen, and then this tag gets stuck to you as a group. And I think it was unfair on the defenders that we had in the team and the goalkeepers as well, that there was this thing that we were poor defensively, and that's why we had to play the way we did. No, we were still strong defensively, but we still continued to play attacking football.
You worked under the late, great Glen Roeder at both Norwich and Newcastle. Tell me about him.
Well, Glen was a close friend of mine, and that dated back to, when I was 13, when I was coming into the club, and the club were making a big push to try and sign me. Glen was the captain of the team, and Willie McFall was the manager, and they were getting me in the summer holidays. I would train with the first team as a 13, 14-year-old, and Glen was the captain, and he mentored me a little bit, and kept an eye on my career, and we kept in touch. And then obviously when he came back to the club as academy director, was similar time to me returning for the second spell. Kept in touch there. I picked his brains on the coaching side. And then when he came in as manager, I was working as an assistant for the reserves as well as playing. And then end of that season, I decided to call time on my playing career, and Glen offered us the job as the reserve team manager, which I took, become a member of his staff, and he took us on board on everything. On deadline day, I was part of the conversations that were being had regarding players' ins and outs, and he was showing us the ropes. Obviously, when he left, I then joined up with him as assistant manager at Norwich, only to then leave once I got offered the chance to become the Huddersfield manager. And we stayed close, we kept in touch, and it was an awful time for me in terms of when the brain tumour eventually, took his life, that because he fought so hard against it, and he lived a great life. He was positive about it, never let it affect him, real positive guy. And what really pleased me was the messages that were sent to his family from not just Newcastle United people, but all over the country, all over the football community was the same message. Great guy, great football person, great personality. And I think only since he's passed, people realised the good job he'd done when he was Newcastle manager. I think he came in at a time when there was this obsession with big names. There was obsession when Newcastle fans were obsessed with getting a big name manager. And Glen came in and done a sterling job, and I think he's well and truly respected and remembered as a great Newcastle captain and a good Newcastle manager.
No, he was a brilliant servant to the club, like you said, as a manager and as a captain, and definitely he was, too young
Well,
too young to go.
no one will forget the Roeder shuffle. It's up there with the Maradona spin or the Cruyff turn. Everyone loved the Roeder shuffle. It was anticipation at St James's when he was ready to do it.
Lee, who is the best player you've played with and the best you've played against?
Well, I'd say the best player I played with for his first 6 months at the club was probably David Ginola.
Yeah.
But over the consistent period, obviously Shearer comes up on that, world class. But I've got to say, in my opinion, the best and probably up there with being one of the best to ever play for the club, if not the best, is Peter Beardsley. Without a shadow of a doubt. Peter could win a game on his own by either making or scoring ridiculous goals. Worked so hard. Was a phenomenal footballer, two-footed. So, yeah, Peter is up there. The best, Zinedine Zidane, Scholes and Keane, a young Steven Gerrard, Vieira and Petit. They rattle them off, but Zidane was probably the one that stood out.
Yeah, I was chatting to a Newcastle fan recently, and he was just, saying to me that Saint Maxima is probably the best, one of the best we've ever had, like in the style he has. But I'd put him second above Ben Arfa in that kind of player, but behind Beardsley. Beardsley was just out of this world, and yeah, joy. You never knew what he was going to do. I remember he scored a crazy goal when we had those kind of maroon and blue striped shirts away at Sheffield Wednesday with his left foot that kind of chipped over the keeper into the top corner, and it was just the commentator actually had the nerve to say, "Did he mean it?" Of course he did.
Peter tried that. He scored a goal at St James's against Norwich with outside of his foot when he noticed the keeper trying to read him crossing the ball, and he seen a gap and he hit it with outside of his foot. And it was so outrageous. People would ask the question, "Did he mean it?" But because we work with him on a daily basis, we'd seen it happen all the time, and we knew he'd meant those type of things.
Yeah, he was an absolute legend. Now, these days, Lee Clark is a manager of Al-Merrikh in Sudan. How did that happen?
Well, thankfully, we had a 0-0 draw last night in a tough game, and that took us clear at the top of the table against our big rivals, Al Hilal, who we beat Sunday at 2-0. And the move come about. Obviously, I've always expressed an idea of coaching abroad, overseas, and someone contacted us February to see if there'd be an interest. I'd done some due diligence on the club and on the country. Realised it was a massive club in Africa, 43,000 with all the games before COVID. And obviously when COVID clears, they compete in the African Champions League and the Arab Champions League. So I thought, why not? Let's give it a go. A new experience, new culture. And I'm enjoying it immensely. It's the people are so respectful. The players are so respectful. It's tough. The heat, 42 degrees, playing yesterday at 4 p.m. The players took it in a
bit warmer than Newcastle, huh?
I was burning on the touchline, absolutely. So, yeah, obviously, yeah, definitely.
Now, you played under some unbelievable managers, like we said, Kevin Keegan, Glen Roeder, Doug Leash. Was it always in the back of your head? Because I could see on the field, your awareness, you always had a brilliant football brain, but was it always in the back of your head, or when did it come into your head that you were going to go into coaching?
Early. I got my first coaching badge when I was 19, 20. I was a UEFA Pro licence holder before I retired.
19, 20, that young, yeah?
Yeah, I was a B licence. I've done my B licence when I was 19 or 20. I was a UEFA Pro licence player coach before I retired. I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't just want to stop playing and decide, I want to be a coach or a manager. And I always wanted to become the manager. I always wanted to be the man who made the decisions. So, yeah, it was always in my mind, and it's a drug. I've had some ups and downs as a manager. I've had some successes and failures, but you kind of get enough of it. It's the next best thing. Nothing will ever beat playing. Nothing will beat that adrenaline rush. You're in control when you're a player. When you're a manager, you try your very best to give the players the tactics and the information, but it's ultimately down to them. It's a strange environment. It's a strange industry as a football coach or manager, because really your future's in someone else's hands. So, but yeah, it's a drug. You need it. I need to be involved in the game, and this is a great experience for me to take forward into the future. And there's something I'm really enjoying.
Lee Clark, you're a Newcastle United legend, an absolute gentleman, and I wish you all the best for the rest of the season. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, JP.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more of our podcasts, please click on the red subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side. Thank you.